Most people using ChatGPT or even custom GPTs are getting weak, unreliable answers and they don't even know it. These failures come down to 7 traps built into how large language models work. In this video, I will show you these 7 traps, how to recognize them, and more importantly, how to fix them. Whether you're chatting with ChatGPT or building custom GPTs from scratch, this applies to both. But there is more. These traps hit every model. OpenAI, Claude, Gemini, Groq, all of them. I've spent thousands of hours building hundreds of custom GPTs and AI assistants, fixing these traps again and again. I also teach how to build solid custom GPTs and share my best ones for sales, marketing, content creation inside my community, CCGG. You can try it for free. Back to the 7 traps. Once you know them and the workarounds, you'll start getting much better, more reliable output from AI. Trap number 1, context overload. Let's start with the mistake that destroys long chat sessions, even if you're using great prompts. Ever feel like AI suddenly forgets what you just said a few messages ago? That's because it has a kind of a short-term memory, context window, like a coworker who remembers the last 5 things you said but blanks on everything before that. When chats stretch too long or you paste a big chunks of instructions, the model compresses the earlier parts. Important rules and details simply vanish. So, how do you fix it? If your ChatGPT user keeps sessions shorter, when it starts sleeping, open a new chat and kick it off with a priming summary with your rules, goals, and a few key examples. In long sessions, don't be afraid to restate the critical rules every few messages. If you're building custom GPTs, log those must always rules directly into the system prompt. Attach reference summaries it can pull from either as a file or in the knowledge base, or keep high priority rules, guardrails stored in the knowledge base. But even if you manage context carefully, there is another trap waiting. What happens when GPT just stops mid-answers? That's not memory here. It's something sneakier. Trap number 2, message truncation. You ask for a full breakdown and ChatGPT cuts off halfway. Seen that? This happens because every reply has a token cap, a hard limits on how much text it can send in one message. If your prompt needs more space, it stops short or squeezes the answer so whole chunks go missing. You'll see it when you ask for big jobs, for instance, a full plan or a long report or 3,000 word landing page. It might look fine at first, but half the steps are gone. That's how weak work slips through. The fix is simple. As a ChatGPT user, split big asks into smaller parts, get one section at a time, or tell it use several messages to avoid token truncation. That way, nothing gets cut. If you build custom GPTs, write the rule into the system prompt. Answer step by step, start with the outline, then each section one at a time, then polish, for instance. You can also teach it to keep going in follow-ups when the token cap hits. But even if you avoid truncation, another trap waits. GPT can drift, the detail starts sharp, then fades. Trap number 3, granularity drift. Ever notice GPT starts out detailed, but the longer the task goes, the blurrier the answers get. It shows up in long projects, building a knowledge base, for instance, or drafting a multi-section report. Steps 1 through 3 are solid, but by step 8, you're getting fluff. The structure falls apart and you end up rewriting the later part. Why? The model slowly loses the zoom level. It begins specific, then drifts into generalities. And so how to cure that? You should anchor the level of detail. As a ChatGPT user, you can show it an example of the detail you want, then remind it, like keep the same depth as step 1. You can pause every few steps to re-anchor before moving. If you're building custom GPTs, bake that rule into the system prompt, for instance. Or you can include sample outputs that show the right depth in the knowledge base or in the system prompt, depending on the length. You can also use this output sample directly in the chat. And then, of course, you can add a check asking, does it match the details of earlier sections? But here's where things get risky. Sometimes ChatGPT doesn't just fade in detail. It applies the wrong rule at the wrong time or use the wrong notion at the wrong moment. And that's when things really break. Trap 4 is data hierarchy blindness. ChatGPT often can't tell the difference between a core rule and a one-off tip. It treats everything as if it's on the same level. Think of it like a messy toolbox. The screwdriver you use every day gets thrown in with a random gadget you used once. Next time, ChatGPT grabs the wrong tool. So you'll see it when you mix rules, frameworks, and tactics. Maybe you said, always do X, and later gave a quick hack for one campaign, and ChatGPT might ignore the core rules and run with the hack everywhere. Or you set a specific tone for one project and it keeps using that tone even when it shouldn't. Here's how to solve that. Be explicit. If you're using ChatGPT, spell it out. This is a universal rule. Always apply it. Or this tactics is only for this case. Keep a short list of non-negotiables and repeat them often. If you're building custom GPTs, structure the knowledge properly. Label things with core rules, frameworks, tactics. Define how they relate. Think of it as a knowledge graph. So the model knows what's a foundation and what's just a situational tweak. But here's the kicker. Sometimes GPT doesn't just mix things up. It starts deleting details. And that's even worse. Trap 5 hides in plain sight. Loss of critical details. GPT loves to simplify, but in the process, it quietly deletes the parts that matters most. It's like a chef who trims down a recipe to save time and removes the key spice that makes the dish work. You don't notice until you taste it, and by then it's ruined. You'll see this in summaries, rewrites, on when you ask ChatGPT to shorten notes. The nuance vanishes. For instance, a policy rewrite drops the one compliance rule you can't skip, or a strategy summary loses the fine print that makes the advice safe. It looks neat, but it fails in practice. So here is how to fix it. As a ChatGPT user, always keep backups of the full version, the one you like. And after rewrite, ask directly, did it skip every rule or every details, and then cross-check. If you're building custom GPTs, train the GPT to preserve constraints when simplified. You can also store stable snapshots of outputs outside the system or in the knowledge base and add a check asking to confirm all original rules or important details are still present, be finalized. But even when details stay intact, another problem shows up. Trap 6 is duplication and overlap. ChatGPT loves repeating itself. In a chat, that's just annoying, but in a knowledge base for a custom GPT, it's a nightmare. It's like saving 3 slightly different copies of the same file. You don't know which version is right. Other times, storage clogs, contradictions creep in, and the whole system gets unreliable. You'll see this when you build long knowledge base for custom GPTs or run extended chats. ChatGPT restates advice with tiny changes, invents new things like new frameworks for a knowledge base, or spins the same rule 3 ways. It feels like more content, but it's really just noise. So here's the fix. As a ChatGPT user, stop and ask, did we already cover this? Get ChatGPT to check its own history before adding new info. If you're building custom GPTs, this trap is really annoying when you're creating knowledge base files. So enforce a search before add rule when you're building the knowledge base with AI. Make the model update objects inside the knowledge base instead of duplicating them. And before saving new entries in the knowledge base, run a quick overlap check so contradictions don't pile up. But even if duplication doesn't get you, the final trap is worse because ChatGPT tries to help and ends up breaking what was already working. Trap 7 is what I call buzzword updates. You ask ChatGPT to tweak one little thing and it rewrites everything. It's like asking a handyman to tighten one screw and it rebuilds the whole shelf, only now it wobbles. You'll notice this when editing drafts or outputs that ChatGPT gave you, or if you're changing knowledge base entries. You like 90% of the text, but asked for a small change and then ChatGPT rewrites the entire page. Or you add a knowledge base entry with solid details, you ask for a tweak, and it simplifies everything, dropping nuances or modifying part of the text that you want it to remain the same. Here is the fix. As a ChatGPT user, scope your edits tightly. Only change paragraph 2 or this line, leave everything else alone. Or keep a copy of the version you liked and compare side by side to be sure that ChatGPT has just changed what you wanted it to change. Do copy-paste surgery if needed, and for that, you can use Canvas. Of course, you can use AI inside Canvas to change only the part you want from a given message or given text. If you're building custom GPTs, train the custom GPT with rules like preserve stable text unless explicitly asked to modify. Add simple change logs as well so you can track exactly what's shifted. These 7 traps aren't bugs. They're just natural limits of how large language models work. But now you know them, and you know how to steer around them. Think of it like driving. The road has potholes, but if you see them in advance, you avoid the damage. Avoid these mistakes, and ChatGPT becomes more consistent, reliable, and business ready. To make it even easier, I put together a quick doc with 13 micro prompts you can use right now to correct these exact issues. Grab it free, no opt-in, link is below. And if you're serious about building custom GPTs for business, that's what we do every day inside CCGG, my online community on School. It's where I share my best custom GPTs for sales, marketing, content creation, and where members swap what's working. You can try it free and see for yourself. See you inside.